Cookies for breakfast? It might sound too good to be true, but it's not. Today I wanted to share with you my recipe for fig breakfast cookies. Let's get baking. Fig breakfast cookies. They're super simple, made with whole ingredients, and my favorite part, they're vegan and gluten-free. So first things first, we want to get our figs. Mission figs are the best. So we're gonna need about a half a cup, and then I usually put a little extra in because I like it to be really figgy personally. So another extra tablespoon worth of figs diced up really well. But before we do that, this is very important. Not only do we want to take the dryness out of the fig, we're gonna wanna cut off these little edges. I don't know if you can see that there, but when you get a dried fig, they aren't completely pruned. That's very hard. You do not want to bite into that. So what I'm gonna do is cut those off first, and then we're gonna place them into a bowl and get them soaked and nice and soft. All right, so let's dispose of the nibs, whatever you wanna call them. And so I had mentioned how dry they are, and we don't want these super dry figs in our cookies. So what we're gonna do is add a little bit of hot water. Doesn't have to be too full, just cover it. Not boiling water either, because we don't want to start drenching out the fig juices. We just want it to be a little steamy, and it's gonna be 5 minutes tops. Doesn't have to be in there long. So while that's set aside, getting nice and soft, let's move on to our dry ingredients. We've got 3 cups of gluten-free oats. Let's put those all in a bowl. Next, we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and then half a teaspoon of salt. Just put that right in your bowl with your oats. And then we're gonna combine our wet ingredients. So to me, this is very important. I like the Whole Foods 365 brand of the crunchy peanut butter. And the other important thing is make sure it's unsweetened. And I think it's better to use the natural version. The natural peanut butters have that oil that you really need, especially for a gluten-free cookie. It helps it bind. It just gives it more flavor. Definitely recommend not doing the no stir. Don't do the Jif, you know, no shade if you like Jif, but for these cookies, natural's better. If you could do the crunchy, I recommend that. Creamy's fine, but crunchy just gives that extra texture that's gonna make your cookie really tasty. So we've got the peanut butter that we'll add. And let's put that all in here. And I also highly recommend always using a rubber spatula because I am a fanatic on making sure I get every last bit, and nothing does it better than a rubber spatula. The unsweetened applesauce that's gonna go in here, it's a half a cup. One little hack that I've learned is getting these little cups. Now, I'm not a big fan of packaging. I don't like having a bunch of little packages here and there, so it's not ideal for that reason. But if you make sure it's recyclable, you won't feel as bad. But the reason I recommend these is the shelf life. You buy a big jar of applesauce, unless you're baking all the time or using it, it's gonna go bad faster. This is exactly the amount you need for this recipe, and most recipes actually is usually a half a cup. So, we're gonna go ahead and put our half cup of unsweetened applesauce into the mix. And again, getting every last bit because all of this is gonna help bind our gluten-free vegan cookies. All right, and this is maple syrup, organic. Definitely don't use Aunt Jemima's. You want real maple syrup. And I use half a cup and a little bit extra, so another tablespoon. So this is half a cup of maple syrup and an extra tablespoon. And again, we're just putting that all in there together. See, so easy. Probably the hardest part is getting your figs together, and even that's not hard. Okay. So I'm gonna give it a stir just to get everything combined. I mean, this is already, you could eat this right now, to be honest. If you like peanut butter, if you like maple syrup, I don't know who doesn't, but. So we're not gonna overmix this too much yet because we still have to add our figs. Okay, so we drained our figs and we just laid them on this paper towel just to get that excess moisture out. And again, it was only 5 minutes, maybe even less in the water, so they're not soaked. So we have our figs. We're gonna finely chop them. And as far as the size, I mean, you can play around with the size, how fine you want them minced. Maybe like chocolate chip size, maybe really, really minced. I'm gonna go a little in between. I don't want them too small because I like to see them in the cookie. And yeah, wow, it's amazing what the soaking does. If you could smell this, like it just smells so good. Just brings the life back to the dried fruit. Now, if you're not a fig fan, but you're like, I like peanut butter, I like oats, I like maple syrup, but figs, you can try cranberries, you could try raisins, you can try dried blueberries. I don't see why any of those things wouldn't work. Actually, that's a great idea. Dried blueberries with peanut butter? That sounds really good. I just like the figs. I think it's different and it's really great binder when you get it all together. I mean, it's really sticky, which is great for this cookie. Okay, I think we've got it to where we want it. There are some big chunks in here. I'm gonna leave those in because how glorious would that be to bite into that? But some are small. I think it's fine to have them not uniform, but again, up to your preference. So let's measure that out. We need half a cup, which I definitely have probably more than half a cup here. Don't worry, I'll eat them. So we have half a cup that we're going to add to our batter. And then I said I like that extra tablespoon. And let's make it a heaping tablespoon, why not? So everything's in here. We've got our figs, we've got our oats, we got our peanut butter, maple syrup, and all the spices. And here comes the fun part. Gloves. The reason I like to use gloves is because the more you squish this and bind it all together, the softer the cookie's going to be. And the easier it's going to be to form because, again, we're not using flour here. The only binder is the peanut butter and the applesauce, and it's in oats. So the oats need to be softened so that everything can stick together. So take your time with this, and I mean, enjoy it. It's so fun. Really squish it in. And the beauty of gluten-free baking too is that the idea of over mixing is not really an issue. So it's always better to just do this for a longer period of time and not worry about it. You're not gonna over mix it. You're not gonna ruin the oats or the cookies. If anything, you're just really getting those flavors like combined. You really wanna taste that maple syrup and that peanut butter and of course the figs. And you'll know you're ready when it's almost like a dough. You know, it's just so sticky. You can basically pick it up in one lump. So I think we're ready to go. I think we're ready to make little cookies out of these. All right, so we're gonna take our already lined pan with parchment paper. This is optional. You can eyeball it. We'll see. I'm gonna start with this. I might end up eyeballing it too because it can get pretty messy, but scoopers are great if you wanna have some uniformity to your, is uniformity a word? Uniformity to your cookies. So let's just put those in there, ball them. And then we're just going to make them ball out first and then we'll squish them down. So they're about the size, fits in your palm. You can play around with the size if you'd like, but I think these are the perfect size for something that you're gonna have for breakfast. You know what, guys? I think I'm gonna not use this. I'm already seeing I'm getting different sizes, and honestly, I think I can eyeball it. So, you know, it does help for most cookies, but I think for these, I'm good. Up to you. Yeah, that's fine. As long as your cookies are the shape and size you want, who cares? The other great thing about these cookies is they don't really spread, so you can get kind of close. You can fit a lot on a pan. These are gonna be big, but I like that. I could probably squeeze more on this pan, but I won't. Don't want to push it. And like I said, I did make them big and we have to squeeze them down to flatten them out. But I already can smell the figs. I can smell the peanut butter, the syrup. I mean, these are gonna be great. Okay, so we've got them on the pan. We'll just give them a little squeeze. You don't have to push them down too far. Traditional cookie looking shape. And the thing I like about these two is we're not gonna obsess about how round they are. It kind of makes it look more rustic, more breakfasty, a little rough around the edges, a little heartier. So we're ready to put these in the oven. So the cookies will take about 20 to 30 minutes. It just depends on your oven or how crispy you want them. You just want to make sure mostly that they're brown underneath. So maybe plan for about 25 minutes just to be safe. The batch makes about 17 to 18 cookies. We have 12 in there right now. I do have some left over, but we're gonna start with this first 12 because they fit on the pan, and we'll see how they come out. Okay, these smell great. Let's take a look. Ah, yeah, see that? Nice and brown on the other side there. So it's crispy on the outside, but you can still tell it's gonna be chewy on the inside. So let's just get these cooling on our rack. And if you're like most people, you're probably gonna wanna eat these right away, warm. One thing about me that I get made fun of a lot is I don't usually like cookies warm out of the oven. I know, it's weird. Although I make an exception for these fig cookies because right now they smell amazing. So. These things go great with a cup of coffee. There's no better way to start your day. If you try out this recipe yourself, let me know in the comments. Or if you don't feel like baking and you're in the Los Angeles area, check out my links below. You can order these fig cookies and other vegan and gluten-free bakes from me. I hope you enjoyed my video. There's a ton more on the way, so don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.